You're an example to everybody else, especially for me being a Native Hawaiian for younger girls, right, to see, because the outer islands in the States, very expensive and it's very hard for kids to just get an education here. So I think when they see people that have actually made it out of the same community, that's why it's crucial to me to be able to give back and be a mentor to this next generation.
Welcome to Working Women Mentor, the podcast that delivers mentorship in every conversation. Each episode, we meet remarkable women who share the real moments, challenges, and breakthroughs that shape their journeys. These are stories that inspire, empower, and remind us of what is possible. I'm your host, Rainey Alfers, and I cannot wait for you to meet today's guest. Let's jump in and uncover your next mentor moment. Aloha, everyone. Today we get to meet Lailan Bento. She is a beautiful woman from Hawaii who is here to share her heritage, her values of mentorship, and her journey with politics all the way to real estate. She's the founder of Hawaii Development Group. She is a strong believer in community, hard work, and heritage. And she has some great tips and examples and some insight into the beautiful landscape of Hawaii. So let's jump in and meet Lailan. Here we go. Welcome. Is it like Aloha from Hawaii? Welcome.
Yes, it's Aloha from Hawaii.
Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, aloha everyone. My name is Lailan Bento. I'm the co-founder of Hawaii Development Group, which is a real estate company out here in Hawaii. And I am a Native Hawaiian. I'm a real estate broker, a mom, and a business owner. And I'm excited to connect.
All of that.
Yes.
All of that. I love it. And so you've got so much. And I mean, we all hear Hawaii. It just sounds so dreamy. I mean, so we'll get into that. But before we do, I know that you texted one of your friends for us. How would they describe you to our audience, Lailan?
Okay. So the response that I did get, let's see. Okay, one said, people at first glance mistake her for being narcissistic, materialistic, because she takes great pride in her appearance, fashion, etc. But those who become better acquainted with Lailan find her grounded, humble, caring, extremely hardworking, and generous. This, in quotes, this may sound cliche, but I assure you this is an objective statement. And she has a great sense of humor. That was what her friend said. And then the other one said, you're fiercely loyal, grounded in your values, and lead with both strength and grace. You always make people feel seen.
Oh, those are really two sweet descriptions of you, Lailan. And I think that it is so nice to me. You're a beautiful woman, you know, and you take great care of yourself. Great. I mean, good for you, right? Shouldn't we all be doing that? Taking great care of ourselves. And it comes in many definitions for many people, and looking through that, I mean, just is great. And we should all be doing that. What a wonderful reminder.
Right. Yeah.
Well, listen, okay, so let's get to this because you grew up in Hawaii. It sounds like the dreamiest place that, you know, we all think about visiting there, or times that we've shared there. What was it like for you growing up in this unique environment? I'm curious.
I feel like growing up in Hawaii was a gift. Being Native Hawaiian, I'm actually able to grow up where my ancestors come from. And there's always a sense of community, of family, which we say ohana. And I always explain this to people that Hawaii is a small state. So it's like growing up in a small town where everyone's related, everyone knows everything. And that could be good and bad in business. But I look at it as being phenomenal in business because you're able to pick up the phone, or you're related to someone, or answers and move things quickly and help clients faster, I think, than me. I used to live in, California. I think Hawaii is much better with
much easier to navigate for you.
Yeah.
Just, it's like you look at it like a small town, like many of us have grown up in, right? It's just, you may have some better views than many people. I don't know. So what was it like for you? Because you made a decision to leave the governor's office, and politics was your world at the time. I mean, take us back to that time period in your life when you decided to do that. What inspired politics as your path?
Growing up, my grandfather was a Hawaii senator for decades. He was actually in the state legislature when Hawaii was a territory, and then it became a state. And so I grew up with that political background, which I didn't like it growing up, because you have the governor at dinner. And I just was thinking, my dad wasn't from that type of a family. So I felt like I was balanced, growing up here in Hawaii. And so I was working at Four Seasons. And then my grandfather said, there's an opening at the governor's office. I think you should take it. And my immediate response was, I don't think so.
I've had enough of that, right?
Yeah, the limelight, and people think politics is power and all of these things, but it actually ended up being my favorite job. It was incredible to work at that level of government and truly being able to help convicts getting out of prison that don't have IDs, single moms trying to find housing, applying kids for school and programs. It was incredible that every day I would go home and really feel like I was making a difference in the community. It got to a point where it was like, you didn't even know who was in office, right? It was just about going to work and being able to change people's lives. And so that really changed my perspective of politics and government. And then realizing how hand in hand government and business go together and how involved you do want to be in government because they're passing laws. I explain this to people every day that affect our lives. So you really want to have a pulse on that and what's going on and get involved, whether you agree with what they're passing or not. But I think always understanding how they work together with business and politics. My grandfather used to say that growing up. And when I finally worked for a governor, then I thought, what, he's exactly right.
Yeah. And I hear so much dedication in your voice to Hawaii, obviously, but also just the people. And this is so refreshing to hear. I know coming off of an election and political environments that can become quite heated. And I think it is a great reminder of, how to get involved, how to see what impact it has on your community, and to just not forget why we have government in general, right?
And to hold them accountable, because they are at the end of the day public servants, right? And they're voted in to make a difference in the community. And I just think that's just crucial, especially for me being a Native Hawaiian. There's more Hawaiians right now outside of Hawaii than actually living here. And so for me, it's like not just the government, but why I'm involved still is I want to see where is the state going, and I'm trying to save my people from staying here, right? That is what I'm trying to do. I've started a college fund. I've adopted for my company county parks. We're just steamrolling ahead because that's my vision, right? Not just to own a real estate company, but to be involved in.
That gives back.
Oh, absolutely, to our community, because that is the true meaning of aloha. And that is our kuleana, as we say as Hawaiians, our responsibility to give back. And what's the next generation and the next generation going to have? So
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and you bring such a human approach to politics.
Yes.
And I'm curious, which is great. What are people's misconceptions about working in politics? I'm sure you had to have friends that are like, oh gosh, what are most people thinking it's like? A very cutthroat or just all easy peasy?
No, it can be both working in politics. And it's interesting because what you see on the media, it's a very different story behind closed doors, right? You get to see who's friends, what their agendas are. But for the most part, you see a lot of people in there trying to make a difference. And, to me, it's almost like it's gotten to a point where it's almost a thankless job because you're at the forefront and all you're hearing is complaints. And, everyone has some kind of a problem, right? Where it's the cats or the homeless. So it's trying to help everyone, in the community. So I think they're on the front lines. It's a lot of work and they're trying to make a difference with archaic systems and a lot of people on, government payroll, and just to try and get it moving. It's a difficult task. It's not as easy as people think. They just think it's taxpaying dollars and, it's funding parks and stuff, but it's a process, right, that has to go through.
There's a lot of work involved into it. And I think that is a misconception that they take our money and they do nothing for us, right? And they're not, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, they're never on my side. And I think there is a lot of that out there. So I really do love your fresh approach. But at some point, you decided to make a change and go an entirely different direction. Tell us about this founding of this company and where you are today.
So I went from the governor's office to hotel sales, so selling Hawaii in the hospitality industry. And then one day I thought, okay, if I can make a corporation all this money, because I was on salary, I've always been interested in going into real estate. I had an aunt that had just done tremendously well in real estate growing up. And I always used to like her outfits and wear her high heels. And
now we're back to your style and beauty and
I thought it was
fashion.
like the glitz and the glam, right? Oh my gosh. So I went into real estate with only $8. And my husband, he is a local Hawaiian boy and he was very firm. He said, I'm giving you one chance and you got to make it. So with that, I was like, okay, going with my sphere of influence, right? I was like, I have $8. All I can afford is business cards. And then I took those business cards and went all throughout town to all my family businesses and started putting my business cards at the reception desks. And, simple things like that. But I started just making it, reached out to like the soccer moms and the basketball moms. Those were kind of first clients. And there's no ceiling in real estate. And I thought, like everyone else does, you just get in, you're getting a commission check, you stick a for sale sign in. But it is a tough job, but it's rewarding. You're getting to change people's lives when they are buying homes, especially, first-time home buyers. It really makes a difference, handing them over those keys.
And a lot of it sounds like what you do is influenced by your upbringing, your family, your heritage. It seems to be driving a lot of your choices and the way you run your life. Would you share with us a bit more about just this Hawaiian culture and how that has influenced you?
So the Hawaiian culture, Hawaiians are very humble, right? And we say ha'a. That means to be humble in Hawaiian. And we're more about your actions than what you tell us. That's kind of how we grow up. And that family is everything in that you actually give, right, before you even ask for something. So that's how we're raised. And so that has implemented into how I do business, right? Because Hawaii is small and we all know each other, and that integrity and really sincerely helping people is probably the foundation of my business. And also, being involved in the community is crucial to me because I need to be able to see where is my homeland going? And, and I didn't want to be a Native Hawaiian that moved away because you could have an easier life or an easier start at life. I wanted to to me, it was like stay and fight because that's what the Hawaiians did, right? We crossed the largest ocean on double hull canoes, not boats, not ships. And they created an entire civilization. So that grit, it's like, that's what's in us, right? So I always felt like stay and fight, stay and get involved and try and be a part of affordable housing developments and what can I do with what I have and what I know.
Just strong roots, strong core values that guide you. I love that. I'm envisioning the canoes coming over,
Yes.
right? Like they made it here. They built this beautiful place. Are you kidding me? We've got to preserve it. Those are big shoes. Those are really big shoes.
And also knowing as a Hawaiian that Hawaii right now had the same population before the missionaries came here that we have today. And we were 100% self-sustainable. So to know that, it was like, I know Hawaii's main income is the military and tourism, which is great. But it's like, okay, how else do we diversify that, right? We were once completely off grid and, had a civilization.
Yeah, we didn't need anybody. Yeah.
So how do we work to try and diversify our economy a little bit more?
Yeah. And I can hear that politician still in you, by the way.
Yeah.
I can hear it. I'd vote for you, Lailan.
Yeah.
I'd vote for you. So let's talk a little bit about mentorship because you've had some really strong role models in your life and you've had a lot of people support you. Is there one person that you can think of that shared some mentorship with you and advice that's really gotten you where you are today?
I just did a magazine article. So I would say my grandfather that was a senator was incredible growing up. He taught me at a very young age, you want people to take you serious. You need to dress serious. I mean, he really tried to set me up for the business world. And he came from nothing and is basically the American dream. And so to see him do that and become a developer and just grow in business, it was phenomenal to watch. Being a college dropout, I mean, he came from a poor family. And so to see him take Hawaii from when it was a territory to a state and just flourish. And politics back then, it was more businessmen in politics than I would say attorneys. So they knew how to, running the government is running a business, right?
Oh, yeah.
He was probably my first mentor. And my grandmother was incredible. That's who he married. My Nana, she was also a very strong, beautiful woman. And she, alongside him, built the real estate that they owned and businesses. And then when I was much younger, when I left the governor's office, my other mentor would be Mr. Hu, is what I call him. And he's Korean. He was the general manager of this hotel, and he was super hard on me. He kind of pulled me out of being like an executive assistant role to going into sales. And I'm naturally super shy. And so he would make me do code calling and all of these things. And I used to be like, no, I'm fine making copies. Like, I'm fine just being the executive assistant. And he was like, no. And so he started giving me like the corporate market, and he really pushed me into sales. And I started doing really, really well and getting the proper sales training and all of those things. And till today, I still do business with him, but he's always mentored me of like negotiating. And this is how business is done, and being fair in business, and, honest and integrity. I mean, which sometimes is lacking in business, but
Oh,
just
yeah.
stay on that route, and to take care of people in business. It's relationships, right? It's not transactional. And he's been a huge part of my success in my real estate career.
It sounds like it. What do you think he saw in you that forced you to get out of the copy room and start and put you in front of someone? I'm sure you were resistant at first. What was that like?
I never asked him. When I first got hired, it was very different from working at the governor's office. And at the time, my husband he still is traveling for work. So my daughter was in kindergarten, and I would pick her up from after school and bring her back to the sales office. So he would see, because he'd walk through the hotel, because he lived on the top floor. He had a penthouse in the hotel, and he would still see me there late at night with a little girl, right, in the sales office. So I think he saw that work ethic. And I had to stay there because I didn't finish my work during the day because I was helping the sales managers, and I had a desktop. So it wasn't like a laptop that I could take home.
Nothing portable about back in those days.
Yeah. So he would go through the gym, right, and come through the sales office and like look at my daughter and look at me like, she's still working. It's nighttime. And there's a little girl like doing crayons and stuff. So I think that he started to notice, and then he would stop and like sit down and talk to us. So then I think he thought, okay, maybe she's
got it in her.
Assisting with the sales managers in this aspect. Why don't we just give her like a market and see how she does in the hotel?
Isn't that wonderful? That is a beautiful story. It's, hard work does pay off. It really,
Yes.
you've got to work, smartly.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to work smartly. You've got to do all of that, right? But there's nothing that replaces just the drive and the integrity for you to still be there and finish what you needed to finish. So I love that story. And I'm curious, Lailan, how do you seek mentorship today? Because you've had so much and you are established in your career. I'm sure your friend group, the whole community around you. What does it look like for you right now?
Right now, my circle is pretty small, a group of friends and people around me. It's a pretty small circle, but I also hire and I'm around people that are much more successful than me, that are smarter than me. My grandfather used to always say, hire smarter. And I'm learning from them, right? And so I feel like this happened to me last year where I was like, okay, I want to scale my company. I'm trying to restructure my real estate company, waiting for 2 developments to launch. So I'm trying to like, okay, what can I do? And I ended up doing a podcast in Las Vegas. And that gentleman owned the second largest real estate company in Nevada. And he explained to me, he's like, you need to be part of a mastermind. I was like, oh. But I actually joined this very elite mastermind group. I can't believe it's like a 4% acceptance rate. And it has changed my life because I felt like I have sold a lot of properties and everything's been great. But it's like, okay, I need to go to that next level. And I just felt like what I knew in Hawaii at that time was like, okay, I feel kind of like plateaued, right? So I went to this mentorship program. They have like quarterly meetings. There's weekly accountability huddles. I mean, they really you can't just show up to a conference and then they dissect your business. Where are you going? What's important to you? And it has changed my entire life. I've restructured my company in the last 2 months. I'm rehiring, had to get rid of some people, hiring people, hired new companies, and I'm excited.
Ever thought about starting a podcast but got stuck on the tech, the time, or what to even say? You're not alone. I've been there. And that's why I created the 7-day AI-powered podcast launch course to help women like you go from idea to launch, fast, smart, and without all the overwhelm. Who has time for that? And to get you started, I'm giving you my 50 favorite ChatGPT prompts to help you plan your content, name your show, and find your voice. Head over to workingwomenmentor.com to grab the prompts and start building the platform you've been putting off for too long.
You said you felt like you plateaued and then you needed more. And we've all heard about masterminds. And some people either one, like you said, I can't believe I was accepted. Or 2, they feel like maybe they're too expensive. They can be very costly. But because there's a lot of value in them, So if someone out there is feeling like you were, what advice would you give to find that group or that mastermind, or how to vet it to make sure it's good for them?
I feel like this particular mastermind for me, it was like people that were in the real estate industry, but on a much larger scale. Like they own, the biggest companies in their states. They're selling billions per year. And so for me, it was like aligning with my value. I think I was knowing where I needed to go, but I just needed the confirmation from people already there, which is what I got. And it's like, okay, Lailan, you do have to make some hard decisions, let some people go, restructure the company to get to the next level. So it was actually phenomenal for me. So I think people they have the same values. And for me, it was like, that's where I wanted to be. Okay, take advice from what did they do, right? Instead of making more mistakes, they've already made the mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. We've all made plenty of them. It's like, that's how we share and learn.
yeah.
It's really helpful. So, what about some powerful networking strategies that you have? Because you made the effort to get out and meet these people. But what can some of us do to expand? Everyone says, of course, find 5 great people, surround yourself with great people. And we know that part. But as women, I feel like as we're busy working, we've got families, we've got commitments, we've got whatever is going on. It's harder to make friends as we get older, right? Especially if you've moved to a new place. If you're running your own company or working in an organization, hard to get time to break away to find people to meet. It really is. There's a lot of excuses and a lot of limitations, but show us the path to networking.
I would say now that I'm older, I think podcasting has been a phenomenal business networking. I have met so many incredible people that I would not be able to meet, obviously, in Hawaii or at, an event, right? But I'm involved in like the Chamber of Commerce, just different little organizations that I do that brings in business networking, because usually in those business organizations, it's the same people. And so you get to know people from different industries, also like insurance or plumbing or those types of things. That's what I would recommend. And starting off with, I don't know, say you like to do a CrossFit, joining the CrossFit gym. You're going to start meeting people in those spaces that you enjoy, I feel, instead of making you kind of uncomfortable. I did like joining this mastermind because I hate public speaking and I'm naturally shy, but I'm in sales, so it doesn't really make sense. But they really pushed me, kind of like how Mr. Who pushed me to get uncomfortable. You're doing a presentation in front of everyone, which I'm like mortified, but I'm glad that I did it. So I think joining a group that's going to really push you to, what are your goals, right?
Right. Accountability.
Accountability, yeah.
And I always say it's like, there's lots of ways to find other people. Just start with one. I was having a conversation with a girlfriend the other day, and it's like, just change gyms. Like, if that's the only thing you have time for, maybe switch that piece, right? And then you can align with some people who love hot yoga like you do, the other ladies in the class or something, something like that. It's like, those are just small. We don't always have to be, again, so formal about it. We can actually just meet like that if that's the start. So
I have a local coffee shop and I talk to all the girls in there, right? It's like, something like that. You're always having coffee. Just start talking to people wherever you go.
And I'm sure they think of you if someone's thinking of investment in real estate or, the community. You've gotten to know these people, and it's those repetitive places we can go. And I think that helps us. So the spirit of Aloha, how can we all apply this beautiful spirit in our personal and professional lives, Lailan?
I think it's just starting with giving first. I think the spirit of Aloha is just being genuine, being authentic, and really wanting to help people and make a difference, I think, in people's lives. That's what Aloha really is, right? And it's like Aloha is love too, right? So I think people
simple and pure.
Exactly. Simple and pure. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that because, we've all, like I said earlier in our conversation, we think of Hawaii and it's that notion of magical place. But a lot of people, Lailan, still that it's a place that only our billionaires are moving to. They're buying up all the land, that it's something that the average person who maybe isn't a billionaire is not able to be a part of. Can you talk a little bit about just like owning property in Hawaii, what that is like? Are there still parcels available? Walk us through that, because I will also say on top of that, I've heard that it's just like almost like They don't want any more outsiders. And is that it? Please, I mean,
No, and
let's break all of that
yeah,
down.
I get that question all the time, especially when the Lahaina fires happened. People we're going to purchase in Maui and they ended up purchasing on our island. So the island that I'm on is called Hawaii Island. It's the Big Island. It's known as the Big Island. This island is still the most affordable, and you have 11 of the 13 world microclimates. So you have a little desert area, a volcano, a rainforest. We have snow on the mountains if it storms. And so every little district is vastly different. And so you can afford property still on this island.
Good to know.
Something like water catchment, or your wastewater system might be a septic system. You might have to drive a little bit to go to a store. It's very rural. But this island still is the most affordable for anybody to live here. And no, we do welcome people here. But I do get that question asked because people were skipping Maui and coming here since the fires. I think the media had portrayed, don't come to Hawaii kind of a thing.
Yeah. I mean, is that where it's stemming from?
And I think being a local girl, that being a Hawaiian, we do feel like, okay, everyone's buying here and we can't afford it here, which is true. But at the end of the day, it's actually our government. Hawaii has the strictest building regulations in the country, worse than California does. So to be able to build takes years to just.
Oh, wow.
My mom's on a development she's been on, still hasn't launched, for 11 years of just going through all the entitlements and going through count. So that is the problem. But I do see where Hawaii, in the 70s had a big economic boom of building, right? And so Hawaii tried to pull back and be restrictive of building new developments and housing. And now it's kind of bit us in the butt, I feel. So our government is not approving housing fast enough. And so that is what, keeps inventory low and then keeps inventory high, right? In the sense of price points are just so high that people are forced to move out
move out.
Living.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a hot topic with someone in real estate, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you're in the middle, right? Because I'm from here, and then it's like, people want to move here, and then people want to stay living here, and to try and find everyone a home when there's not that many homes. It can be hard. Yeah.
I can see that. I mean, you want to grow your community, and the only way to do that is to provide additional housing for them.
Yeah, and it keeps a community or an economy stable, right? When the middle class is not moving away, those are all the worker bees, the school teachers, the firemen, hotel workers, police officers. That's that crowd that we're trying to find housing for, the workforce housing, I would say.
That makes so much sense. And I'm thinking about, you said people moving away because there wasn't enough housing, let's say, for someone who grew up there or someone who's still there. What is some advice for people who are actually moving either there, by the way, or really anywhere? Because again, we think about these beautiful places around our world, and a lot of people can work remotely these days. They want to travel and work at the same time. What are some things that we should consider when picking up and moving to a new location like Hawaii?
I would say, I know a lot of people watch HGTV, and since COVID.
Oh, yeah.
So the first thing I do usually is trying to ask people, I think understanding exactly where you want to live, right, in Hawaii, because every island's different. Every little town is different. And so some areas don't have a white sand beach. Some don't have, grocery stores. So I think it's what somebody's wanting. If they want, more of a rural area or to be more remote, then you can probably go on the outskirts of the main towns to live. But I think really understanding what's important to you. Are you an ocean person? Are you a hiking person? I think that would help somebody with purchasing here, where they want to live, I think, because every town is different. So I kind of try to figure out what's important to them. Is it schooling? Is it, and then try to place them in those areas that they're looking to buy. Yeah.
Well, it's good to know there's still places to buy in. And I have to ask, because you touched briefly on the fires, would you sort of take us back to that time in Lahaina where, this was devastating to everyone. And of course, this year we've had the fires in California that were beyond devastating. It's hard to watch. It's hard to know people who have gone through this. What was that time like for you guys on the main island?
It was interesting. We had families, local families, families that were affected, including one of my realtors at the time. Her grandmother's house burned down. She's from Lahaina, and to see some of her family homes, especially her grandmother's home, burned down. Everybody was safe, but to see that entire area devastated, and then to have not only people that want to buy there move here, but also families that were there it's going to take many years to rebuild. They're moving to this island too. So we had to help them find housing quickly here while they were trying to file their claims and stuff. So it was interesting to see. And I live in an area on the west side. It's called the Kohala Coast of the Big Island. Same weather pattern. One of the hotels where I live during when Lahaina was burning had burned their maintenance and their golf course. So it was all happening at the same time. It's the same like deserty area.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where I live. And so we were worried about this area, but to see Lahaina just completely devastated, we were doing donations and drives in the community of supplies. And so I was sending supplies to my cousins that lived over there. And it was phenomenal for Hawaii to come together. And I think growing up here, sadly, we don't really rely on our government. We're used to, we live in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and at the end of the day, an emergency happens, we have to help each other. That's how we grow up here. So even if it's a natural disaster, if you saw the news in the media, you would see people coming with boats from the other islands. I mean, that's just how we're raised, right? To help each other. Yes. Yeah.
What is it like now there? Yeah. What is it like right now?
Right now, it's slowly being rebuilt. I know a lot of like Front Street that was destroyed with all the businesses. That right now with Hawaii's, building regulations it's too close to the ocean. And so we're just watching that happen. And I'm watching to see what their economy, how it's going to be, because now I think they're trying to pass a bill to get rid of 8,000 vacation rentals, thinking that's going to help supply more housing. But usually those are in areas that people that live on our islands don't want to live. It's not close to, it's more of a resort
feel.
Kind of feel, right? So that's what we're just trying to see. But they've, bounced back. Didn't get much help from the government, sadly. But I think that the community on all islands came together to help.
That's so encouraging. It's, there's a lot of economy to what I hear you talk about, right? I mean, there's a lot more to everything than we think, but especially, back to government. It's after natural disasters, after things happen, to get things approved.
Exactly. And that's, I think, what people don't understand, right? I think they couldn't turn on the water in Maui because it had to go through like 2 state approvals, which would have taken a couple of weeks to just turn the water on. I mean, it's just all of these laws that are archaic from decades ago. I think the response time, there's a reason for the slow response time, and that has to do with what's implemented in government, right? With the different approvals going through different departments. So it's not like people think that you can just write a check and here you go. But sadly,
right.
Too many approvals, I think.
Too many.
Emergency, especially.
I was in Notre Dame recently, and that reminds me of that, that fire there in Paris that day, it burning down. It's been over 5 years ago, right? And then all the money that was pledged to rebuild it and get it back open. And 5 years later, they did it. And it's beautiful now. It's different to me, but it is stunning. But it took a lot. And it took people from all over the world and hundreds and hundreds of artisans. And this is just one structure that burned out. It's a very old one. But to think about an entire town and an entire community. And so it's interesting to get your insight on this. And Lailan, I'd love to know before we go, what is your mentor moment that you want to share with all of us that we can have that leave behind from you?
I would say mentorship doesn't always look like a formal meeting. Sometimes it's a quiet lesson from someone living in alignment with their values. I want listeners to remember that you don't have to wait for a perfect mentor. Watch, listen, and learn from the people already around you and be that example for someone else, I think. Especially owning a company and being the main broker, I think, right? You're an example to everybody else. And maybe, especially for me, being a Native Hawaiian for younger girls, right? To see, because the outer islands in the States, very expensive and it's very hard for kids to just get an education here. So I think when they see people that have actually made it out of the same community, that's why it's crucial to me to be able to give back and be a mentor to this next generation to say, yes, I'm Native Hawaiian too. And yes, I grew up in the same neighborhood, but you can do it too with hard work and not giving up. Yeah.
I love that. And I think that applies to every neighborhood, right? I mean, there's so many situations like that. It's be an example. I always think if they can do it, I can do it. It's how we can show the light to other people. And so that is really beautiful. Lailan, how can our audience find you?
You can find me on my website, which is Lailan Bento, my name, lailanbento.com. Or I would love for everybody to connect with me on social media. My real estate social media page is at Lailan Bento on Instagram. So go ahead and follow me and go ahead and message me if anyone has any questions about buying or selling real estate or just Hawaii in general.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, you're my first call on my next time to Hawaii.
Yes, please.
You were going to be my literal first call. So I love that. All right. Well, thank you for joining. I so appreciate you. And it was just wonderful just hearing your words and your mentorship today. So thanks so much.
Hey, wait, before you go, I have one ask. Would you please leave us a review? Tapping on those stars on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you're listening to this will really help us. It'll spread the word and your voice and your impact as well, because every episode we are giving mentor moments. And I hope you can continue this conversation with us at workingwomenmentor.com. To apply to be a guest, find show notes and episode details. And if you've ever wanted to start a podcast, we've got the perfect course for you. Follow us on Instagram at Working Women Mentor and DM us the word mentor, and I'll send you over our free guide on mentorship so you can incorporate it into your life. Thanks so much for joining us. And until then, cheers until the next episode.